started at beat.
Whoa! Did you pick that up? Did you pick that up?
I'm sorry. Sorry,
Wow.
camera.
What did you say?
Nothing.
All right.
F word.
So for class today, reminder, we had 3 land hand readings and Wolfer chapter 5 to go. Screen down, please, Sam. Check it off. Oh, hi, Arthur. Welcome back.
You're on camera.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, don't say the F word on camera.
It's really confusing.
Check it off. Ready to go. So we are doing retrieval to start to see how well we were able to prepare for the debates today, and in terms of preparation for quiz tomorrow. However,
Thank you.
with the retrieval, I'm going to ask that you do this with a partner and talk it out today. So no writing today, because we're going to be doing a lot of writing tomorrow, Evan.
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking it out, but so no stress on this one, but do the best you can. After you're done, if you want to sort of take notes and check yourself, that's probably a good thing, because a lot of these concepts I think are important to your understanding of bureaucracy, to your understanding of the executive branch. So before we get to the debate propositions and have some conversation about the pros and cons of the American federal bureaucracy, I'd like for us to do our best on trying to recall this information. Kat, if you would work with Cece and Amanda here, that'd be great. All right, so about 7 or 8 minutes. We got a lot of questions. So 8 minutes.
Is she never perspired?
All right, so screen down, notes away. Try what you can recall.
I'm gonna find a new partner. You're gonna start talking about one person. Interest groups and people that we can log and all that stuff. You watch it. It's like and then interest groups. Merit system versus still patch at. Wait, no, merit system versus patronage. Merit system is like after the Pendleton you take a test to prove that you get patronage. You don't deserve it. Pendleton. Like when they start using tests for civil service. Patch Act. That was the replacement of the Pendleton. We're making better. We're going to make them more challenging or more well, if you want to let it go on your corporation, so it's not also just like a good even if you have connections I think it's a specific thing like someone in a bureaucracy.
Patronage is
no, we have a disagreement. So you can clarify that. Whistleblower. If you're at the inbox, you want to whistleblower. If you sign a private contract, that might be part of it.
That's not quite.
Probably just not.
Application is going to have one.
Maybe no, but like when you have a bunch of agencies that have like a gray area, and then they like different policies and stuff that are like overlapping.
and no one really knows who's in charge, and then it's just super.
I'm not sure if we're using that. I think there's no misunderstanding on it.
Which point it enters
Feeling classified.
I don't remember.
This is the last level.
Okay, what is it countering?
We're just talking about
I know exactly what the
It
position
represents everyone's interest, like someone always brought that up.
Oh,
Those are like any like case that's made because something went wrong with someone's
all the labor situations.
a lot of people are really getting beat.
Hi, Mr. Rogers in the future.
all right, screens down, please.
Is it weird seeing yourself in the past and knowing that you can watch yourself?
So, Laurel, real quickly before we begin. When are we gonna take the quiz? Do you wanna do that after school today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Can we meet out here in the sort of the writing center area?
We go to the quiz right now?
So we are going to actually review the quiz, so if Elbeck and Laurel will sort of step out from it, thank you.
It's a classic element.
Appreciate it.
Rocks.
You just take off, buddy. Take off, buddy. Reduce it wild, buddy. Take off,
It's the part where it says collective version of better. Please don't.
I think it's because
You always do.
I know, so please don't.
So, today we're going to review the quiz, make sure we're clear before we move into the judiciary and talk about judiciary. And we're going to look at Federal 78 today to make sure we're diving into that one more of our foundational documents. Evan, question?
Were they better than the legislative one?
I think a little bit better overall. A couple people not as well. But I think those people know who they are.
Yeah.
And just so we know what's coming up this week, we do have another quiz on Thursday. This one will be IDs only for the judiciary, and then instead of FRQs that are related to the judiciary, it'll be an argument FRQ. All right, so this one will be potentially one that you take as a grade, or it will be the other one that we took at the beginning of last week, the argument FRQ.
We take it in class.
Yeah, we're gonna take it in class. So the first half of Thursday's class assessment will be judiciary assessment, and then the second half, Grant, sorry, will be an argument FRQ, which is based in the judiciary, but also will be more comprehensive.
That's a lot of writing in one day.
So,
I like it.
It is, but it's only gonna be IDs, and I think it'll be like 6 to 7 IDs.
Have you seen my IDs? That's a lot of writing.
So we got
Type in about 21.
Type
Type
it
or
up.
no type?
so
Yeah.
if we already know we want to take our other FRQ, do we have to write the second FRQ?
If you're trying to better yourself in education, you would.
So,
Every opportunity.
yeah, so like if you're gonna play the game, Cat, that's fine.
Don't
But
expect a good process score.
yeah, I
Don't have one anyway.
think it's indicative of, so Kat, I think it would be indicative of a process that's not taking advantage of the opportunity.
Day by day.
Joe?
Okay.
Okay.
Different theme, but kind of the same question. If we know we would take the first FRQ as a written FRQ grade, so we type the one on Thursday.
Ooh, interesting. I'll actually think about that.
Wait, so interesting.
Actually, just
Senior.
I will.
Yeah.
You're actually, frighteningly, I can read your handwriting better than some others.
That's not a good sign.
Mikey,
We take one of these scores? You choose which one?
for the argument FRQ.
Like the one we wrote that we got back.
Mhm.
You can choose which one you want.
Wait,
Okay,
you
Fed,
choose by,
Fed.
you just give it like
Rico.
that, you don't revise it, right? Like,
Yeah,
you just revise it.
no revise.
Okay, and then both of them tell us no, like grammar and stuff, it's just ideas.
Just ideas, because it's in class. Correct. Aaron, question?
And then I kind of asked you about this on Friday, but like, let's say we do well on the second one as well, that gets the same grade, could we have both of those graded to kind of like?
Our problem force there was
Kids that like did well in the first one, are just like totally pooping out on this one.
There's double reward.
No, like you wouldn't have to.
You don't have to.
Because then you can balance out your grades, you can go on both, like.
So, for those of you who did really well in the first one, if you were to get a 6 again, then I would make an important note of that, Aaron, in the
Duly noted.
in my grade book.
Okay,
Okay.
Your expectations are high.
No. So,
No pressure.
You'd have to
before
write
we,
the next one.
alright, we're moving on. Before we move into the quiz, or excuse me, before we move into discussing judiciary, we're gonna review the quiz, make sure we're clear on a couple key ideas from the executive branch, both the bureaucracy and the presidency. And so, as I hand out tests, I'm gonna give you guys a minute just to look through. I'm gonna review a couple key themes for you, and then I'm gonna ask that you use this as an opportunity to sort of learn from this, so that we're better prepared for the assessment next Monday, and so that we're better clear on the executive
Does that
branch.
mean we did bad?
I think so.
There are a couple ideas that we did not do well on. These ideas were hard, but on the whole, I thought we did okay. So, wherever you decide to take notes, Evan and Grant, wherever you decide to take notes on this is up to you, but I do think there's some information that will be important to review and reflect on.
I don't know what I'm doing this day, but I want to take notes.
Thanks, old man.
Try.
Senor.
Oh, come on.
Thanks.
Oh, come on. Yeah, my bad.
Mikey, I am so tired of asking you to get up and throw those out. Sam.
Unbelievable, I'd say.
You're so lazy.
Unbelievable, I'd say.
Oh, jeez.
Not my bad. Oh yeah, we say that to Chuck all the time. Not my UC. Not my unit commander.
Yeah.
Not
That's
mine.
fine. Every time Sarge looks at me in the meeting, I want to say not my better day, but I can't. Because it just so is.
We're starting a new unit, but Company D.
Oh, you're bringing it back?
Oh, jeez, oh, Pete. What's this happening to me, Doc?
Wait,
Why am I so stupid now? I don't know. I wasn't before, and then I stopped when
You do. Who's in it? Couldn't tell.
What's a legislative veto? I think I got that one wrong.
Yeah, no, I did the FRQs first, and I was like,
4 or 8? Oh, I forgot to answer one.
that's
I got all of them right,
This
but I
trade thing
didn't.
is a no.
6.
4 out of 7.
This trade thing is a
How was that 4 out of
no.
7, bro? What?
So I'll talk about this here.
It's a tough go.
So first of all, legislative veto. A lot of us thought of that. You ready, Grant?
Yes.
So for a little note-taking time here. Legislative veto. A lot of us thought of that as sort of just the typical presidential veto.
No.
Veto the legislative branch. It's not that. It's actually an idea that committees in the legislature can veto actions or decisions made by the bureaucracy. It was deemed unconstitutional. Okay?
So they can't do it?
So they can't do
Wait,
it.
so legislative branch, the committees of that, veto legislative powers?
Cannot do that through this measure. This isn't an instrument that they actually have to check. They tried it to sort of check the bureaucracy, but it was deemed unconstitutional by the Supreme Court.
Can you say that again?
I knew that.
Huh?
The definition, can you say that again?
So, a measure taken by committees who oversee specific executive branch agencies, bureaucracies, who will deem some of their actions not in line, or they will veto their decisions, saying, nope, can't do that, or overturn those decisions, asking for bureaucracies to delay something for 30 to 60 days so they can review it. That was deemed unconstitutional, since the veto is not something that the legislative branch has.
Ooh.
Independent agencies is the other ID that we struggled with. So essentially, the basic way to understand independent agencies are agencies where there isn't a cabinet member. So they are separate and distinct, and they operate with outside sort of the typical realm of the executive branch. They operate independently. NASA is an obvious example where they do a lot of stuff on their own. They still get funding from the government, right, from Congress. And they still have to report to Congress and indirectly report to the president. But they are actually independent, and they don't operate within the cabinet. They
So
don't have any
independent
cabinet.
from the like executive heads, essentially. So just, but I still have executive powers.
But they still are an agency within the federal bureaucracy. So NASA being an
What's
example.
their significance?
That they do work.
They do it without the guy telling them what to do.
But who's in
That-
charge?
Why
Who's
is
in
that
charge of it?
significant?
They're usually a lot more flexible.
Yeah, but so who's in charge of them when they get too flexible?
Wait, what's
They
the
still
difference?
have congressional oversight, and they
Oh,
still
yeah.
have funding from Congress.
Alright.
Right, NASA's like, we need this much money to do what we want to do, this is
Congress
why we
is
want
like-
to do it, and Congress will say yep, or they'll say, no.
What other agencies are there? Aside from NASA?
EPA.
NASA.
CIA is independent.
EPA, independent. The book says postal services, but it's
That one's iffy, right?
kind of, because it's also an independent corporation that's somewhat
That
funded
doesn't
by
think that
Do they have less power then if they were dependent on a cabinet member?
They would have, less flexibility, yeah. They would be a
So
little
it's
more
bad.
dependent.
So it's bad, right?
Potentially,
I mean,
potentially, I don't know.
assigning
Like,
the
so
bad
NASA and
to-
EPA, right, as we talk about bureaucratic discretion, the idea being that some of those, agencies demand certain expertise, and so you sort of trust them to do their job, and you often give them more leeway.
Wait, that guy's DOJ.
Yeah.
Who's in
Okay, FRQ number 1, other congressional powers over military. Some of us still, in that FRQ about the War Powers Resolution, some of us still mention that the fact that Congress can declare war. That was the one that you needed to mention in 1A. Congress declares war, but the President is Commander-in-Chief. There's a real tension there, okay? So other congressional powers over military, power of the purse, right, they can fund the military. They have the ability to ratify treaties, so that is a way that they can have power over the military. If they don't want them to continue to be in a war, right, they can say, we're gonna sign a treaty, theoretically. Those are sort of the two big ones.
I feel like
Makes
if
sense.
you've already like started a war with someone, they're not just gonna be like, oh yeah, let's do a treaty.
No, but it would be a theoretical check. They also can, they have the power to advise and consent, right? They will accept military officials who are like in the cabinet, right, the Department of Defense.
Wait, so for B, outside of like the 60-day thing, what are other things made by those war?
Yeah.
48 hours, the president has to report the action within 48 hours of initiating.
Didn't they say he had to, like, he could only use military action in emergencies or something?
Yeah, correct. So it's like, he had 48 hours then to report it to Congress afterwards,
Oh.
theoretically.
So we can go without reporting it?
So he can send in troops to a situation, and within 48 hours, he must report that to Congress and tell them that this is what he's done.
And then 60 days from there, they decide if they want to fund it.
And then that he's allowed to keep troops in the area.
How have we not declared war since
World War II.
Yeah.
It's just been more
How does that work?
for quickness sake, right, for speed.
Yeah,
So what
how
happens
do
after
we
60
say
days?
this? Yeah. Don't they just get
Uh,
extended time?
They have to continue to sort of approve it, theoretically.
So every
So what's the
60 days.
difference between saying yes, you can continue to fight this war, and us actually declaring war?
you're gonna
In
be
practice, nothing.
formally.
In practice, nothing.
Isn't the whole thing with like the war on terror the fact that we don't want to recognize them as an actual nation that we're worth fighting?
Correct. So like so part of it is the fact that a lot of the wars that we're fighting aren't necessarily actual wars that we're declared it, and so in part because we don't want to acknowledge that they are an autonomous nation of some sort, right? Like the war tends to be between two countries, standing countries who fight with each other.
Isn't that like an outdated definition of war?
Yes. FRQ number 2, going to transition here. So part B, when it comes to bureaucracy structure, which leads to its independence. One example would be independent agencies, that is part of the structure. Another effect is very large, right? There's lots and lots of departments and agencies. It's hard for a president to oversee all of it. That's all you needed to say, but that it's large, and therefore, because there's so much going on, it's hard for a president to keep his eye on everything and his cabinet on everything. Therefore, these agencies tend to operate pretty independently.
Is that for
because of
B?
That was B, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, that was for the structure. For the policy, a lot of us talked about discretionary authority, but for the complexity of the policy issues, which was good, since that was one of the IDs. Constitutional provisions for Part C. So again, power of the purse, power to write laws for Congress. Courts have judicial review. And then for interest groups, what you needed to mention was something about freedom of speech, right to assembly. Ideally, you should have actually identified the First Amendment in that FRQ.
Wait,
I
so
think
how
I
does
was
the First
generous
Amendment
on this, and I
connect?
didn't.
The freedom of speech to do it.
I just said freedom.
Yeah, but how does that check the bureaucracy? Like, what-
Yeah, how do interest groups check it out?
So they have, through the First Amendment, interest groups can then sort of share what they're seeing bureaucracy is doing and how it's affecting them in their lives. Therefore, that could be a check because now more people are aware of what's happening, so that they would then want to change it, so then laws might be rewritten, right? There's a downstream effect.
But if you get all checks, how do you versus one?
I probably didn't put an X where it's meant to be. All right, what I'd like to do now is everybody take 1 minute to sort of think through and add any notes that you need to, and I'll come around with any final questions for people individually. I'll need those.
Can we get the test? Is that possible?
The point is that it's,
Once everybody's taken.
Oh, yeah, okay.
the idea that it's the large agencies that incorporate both the people who create regulations and people who enforce them.
Good complexity. Okay. I think so, yeah. Joe, would you be willing to let, know that thing?
For the first.
Yeah.
And I can get back.